Woo! It's a bright day. I thought I would do a little video from outside, but it's really bright, so I hope you guys can see me. Today is 3 months since Scott passed away, and so every now and then I hear someone ask me, so how are you doing, and so where are you at? Are things getting better? I think yes. I think it's hard. I think there are some days that are better than others. This last week we buried Scott, so he was cremated and his ashes were put into an urn. So this week on Tuesday we had an interment service for him in Portage. So he was buried next to where Rhonda is buried, and so that was a pretty rough day for me, actually. There was just lots of parts of that day that that were hard. It's emotional. Kind of put a close to some things, of course, and also there's just things about death and grief that are complicated. There's probably about 4 of you in the last week who've been with honest kindness and just a real like, I can see that you care about where I'm at and what I'm doing. You've asked a question, and the question is like, so what stage of grief are you in? And so like the first time I was like kind of shocked by the question, but then it seems to be a question that more people are asking. So after the 4th time I thought, I should probably answer that question. So what stage of grief am I in? Well, if you have ever grieved, like if you've lost someone super close to you, whether it's a parent, a child, a spouse, you will know that there are different stages of grief that people talk about, such as anger, depression, denial, all the way up to acceptance at the end. And there's like different sort of aspects of emotional responses and reactions that you would feel during those different stages. And so people who have not experienced the grief look at stages kind of like levels. Like now you're at level 1, and then you'll be done that, and then you move on to level 2, and then you'll be done that, and you move on to level 3, and eventually you get to acceptance, and now the grief is behind you. That's actually not how grief works at all. I would say that on some level, all of the stages are present at all times. Some just maybe seem to be more obvious in some moments, and some sort of back off and have less impact, but the stages are kind of all there. So instead of thinking of it as like levels, like what level are you at, and are you sort of making your way through the maze, and are you soon out of it, that doesn't happen. Grief will always be here. I will always grieve Scott, but the grief will change in intensity. Sometimes it'll be less, sometimes it'll be more, and probably in 20 years, February 25th will come around and I will grieve on that day. Not that I haven't accepted it, not that I'm in denial, not that I'm angry, not that any of those things, but because that day will be a day that I will remember and I will grieve again. So the stages of grief look like parts of the day are great, and all of a sudden, like I just was not expecting that, hit with a memory of loss. Or some days I'm like moments, not even days, but moments where I'm angry. It's not fair. Like, our marriage was far too short. It's not fair. I wish I could change it. And I'm angry, and I get angry when I see that others have relationships, marriages that are difficult, that they complain about, that they don't value their spouses. And I'm like, why do they get to keep their spouses for so long? And I wanted Scott, and Scott wanted me, and we don't get that. But yeah, so there's different stages where that happens, but it's not like a period of time. It's like a period of moments that happen. So, and then even like the depression part of grief, that hits differently for some people. Some people call it depression. Some people feel like it's just exhaustion, which is normal. But it feels like I can't go on. Like, I don't want to go on. Like, this was not the plan. So here I am, month 3. And I don't know what stage I'm in today, but I do know that the stages have vacillated so much from day to day that there's mornings where I feel like, okay, I can do this. I can go and get up. I can attack some tasks. And then there's other days where I'm just like, I turn around and I don't know what to do, and I'm not motivated, and I can't keep going, and I choose to do things like give myself grace and not do the hard things as much that day. But more and more I am moving into getting out more, which I find exhausting. I find relationships a little bit more difficult right now, just for my capacity, not because the people are hard or anything, but just my capacity. And just really trying to focus on where does God want me in this exact season, because it does feel a little bit like brand new. It's like kind of when you come out of college and you're like, okay, so now what do? I get to choose who I want to be. So I didn't graduate college. Well, maybe I did. College of sick and dying. But I'm kind of in this new place. So what will life look like for me now? So I'm starting to get a little bit clearer idea about where I want to go, what I want to do, what kind of person I want to be. I'm going to see if I can shift this a little bit. One of the things that I would say about how my experience with Scott, being married to Scott, and how that and then losing him has changed me, is that I want to be much more gracious to those who have lost people, who are in pain. Because there are situations where people who, what I see around me is the people who are the most ungracious just really have no idea what it's like to be in pain. And they expect that how they would treat themselves, which might be just pick yourself up by the bootstraps, give yourself a kick in the pants and get going. That might work for themselves in certain moments, but it's certainly doesn't feel like grace and love to the person who's sick and hurting or grieving. And I want to be the kind of person that realizes, wow, yes, this actually is super hard to go through, super hard to think straight. And I want to encounter the people around me with love. Since I've lost Scott, there's so many people that I've run into who become widows or widowers, or whose husbands or spouses are like in long-term illness situations, or they've lost a child or a best friend or a parent. And I think to myself, up until now, I don't think I gave them enough grace. I don't think I understood how tired they would be, or how, like, the little things that I thought I was asking. I thought they were little things, but they were probably big things or little things that felt like big things to them because their capacity was low. They were grieving. And so I want to be the kind of person that extends grace because I have no idea what they're going through. The other thing is that grieving is lonely. And, the text, the phone calls, all that is wonderful. But knowing that you belong to a people who also love the people that you lost are, that's invaluable. So, like, when families stick together, when you're encouraged, you hear a story about someone that you loved from someone else, it feels, oh, good, I'm not the only one who misses this person. And it sort of puts the grief into context, and it validates your own grief, your own loss, because it is loss. And to think that you're the only person that lost this person and the only person that's grieving feels lonely. So it's nice when other people remind me, if I get a text and says, hey, I was just driving by this one place and I thought about Scott, so I thought about you and just thought I'd let you know I'm thinking about you, or missing Scott or whatever. And those are important. So whether it's Scott or someone else, if you know someone who's lost someone, don't be shy about reminding them that you're thinking about them, or that the person that they lost, you still miss them too, because that's super important. yeah, I do want to post a bit more again. I had a bit of a rough last month, so I know it's been a long time since I posted, but I thought I would share this, and then the next little while, hopefully I'll get back to my videos. In the meantime, thanks for your support. Thanks for your prayers. And again, I want to start doing more questions about grief and but also how to prepare, how to plan, how to be ready should something happen to a loved one. So please post your comments, and I'll do my best to answer them.